Hi, this is Chris Aldrich of BafoSaco.com. This is the next in a series of tutorials indicating ways to set up a WordPress website to be compatible with a lot of the new functionality that is growing out of the IndieWeb community. So we've got a basic WordPress install on which we've downloaded and activated the SemPress theme. Today we're going to install and configure some of the IndieWeb plugin, which can be found in the wordpress.org main repository. This plugin is meant to act in some sense as a meta plugin for a few other plugins we'll want to install, but it'll also allow us to add a few useful micro formats to our website, as well as an hcard, or in some sense a business card, to better show our identity on our website and where we might be found elsewhere. It's got a variety of other pieces that will direct you to and provide some additional information. But let's start out first by finding it and installing it. So obviously one can download it directly on from the wordpress.org repository, but probably the easiest and quickest way to do it without any fuss or muss is to go to your WP admin interface, hover over plugins, and click Add New. This will allow you to do a quick search for IndieWeb. And hopefully the first one that pops up is the IndieWeb plugin that we're going to install here. So we'll click Install it. That will download it and put it onto our site. And then we can easily and quickly click Activate to turn the plugin on. So now we're in our plugins view, which shows all the plugins we've got. Obviously, there aren't many at the moment. We just have the two default Akismet anti-spam plugins, which we haven't yet set up, although one could easily do that. We also have the Hello Dolly plugin, which one can either take or leave. But what we do now have is an IndieWeb tab over here on our dashboard that has 3 pages associated with it: a getting started, an extensions page, and an options page. So let's go to the natural one of getting started. You can kind of read through at your leisure. There's a button for installing some additional plugins. There is some detail about themes for use with this. You'll notice that they highly recommend the SemPress theme or the independent publisher theme, which we've already got set up and running on our particular site, and some additional details about what the IndieWeb is. The extensions page, one can get to by the install plugins page, has a plugin installer with a handful of recommended plugins for adding some additional IndieWeb functionality to your website. The first is the Web Mention plugin, followed by its sister plugin, the Semantic Linkbacks. There is a MicroPub plugin for creating a MicroPub server on your site, as well as an endpoint. There's a plugin called PostKinds, which we will cover later on in the series. There is one called Syndication Links, which is an easy way to show where you've syndicated your content out to. There's a plugin called Bridgie for WordPress that's recommended. Another called IndieAuth. There's one called Microformats 2, Simple Location, and finally the WebSub plugin, or as it's was known previously, the PubSub Hubbub plugin. And in some of our future tutorials, we'll go through what each of these are and how to install and configure them. But to finish up with some of the functionalities here for the IndieWeb plugin itself, we'll go to the identity settings, or the options page that has our identity settings. On here, there is a place to indicate if the website is a single author site or a multi-author site. Some websites will allow multiple authors to publish to them. Because this is a brand new install and there is only one default author on it at the moment, the plugin recognizes that there's only one and gives you a default check on this. So this single author site can't be unchecked unless there are actually multiple authors on the site itself, in which case you can check or uncheck this. Most who are using simple IndieWeb capable websites probably are setting up a particular domain to be used by themselves and for themselves, in which case the vast majority of people building sites are probably building single author sites. There is a drop down for having a default author. This is good if you have a multi-author site, and then you can choose who the default author is for the identity. Then there is a setting for use user website URL for the author, and if checked, this will replace the author page URL with the website URL from your user profile. And essentially what this means, within WordPress parlance, typically each author is given a rather long, somewhat crazy URL, although it looks relatively obvious what that is. In fact, we can take a quick look at what that is. In my case, we can click on the permalink for the name, and it will give me a slash author slash username URL. And what the IndieWeb plugin is doing is, if you've checked this box, instead of using this long URL, it's going to instead use your base domain name. And in this case, it would be chris.bafosacco.com rather than the entire slash author slash Chris Aldrich as well. So it allows you to use your basic domain name as your primary identity on your website. And then there is finally a checkbox for a piece of there's a widget built into the IndieWeb plugin that has some icons that can either be black and white or in color. So I'm going to leave this unchecked so that we can use the color icons. And then I'm going to click Save My Changes. Now, after we've saved that, we're going to go to the Appearance Widgets tab. And what we're going to do is add an hcard widget to our page. I'm going to drag this and drop it right under the search sidebar. There is an avatar size setting that's got, I think, a reasonable default. So we're going to save that if we haven't already. And what this does, I'll refresh our main page. It's going to come over and it's going to add this little widget here off on the side that has our photo and our username. And to better put some and display some data in this area, we're going to go and do some customization. So to do that, let's go to Settings, and I believe it's hiding under General. Oh, no, I take that back. Let's go to Users and Your Profile. That's where it's going to have the details about who we are and what we're doing, how we're working. I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and I'm going to use name, name already set up in there. We'll leave that. We've got some contact info. There's a default email. My website is going to be the domain name that I've got here. So http://chris.bafosacco.com is my website. It's going to ask for my presence on a handful of social media sites. So let's say I'm on Facebook. My URL for my Facebook presence in here. A Twitter account. We can copy and paste that into our Twitter name. It's actually, we don't need the full URL, but we can just put the username. I've got the microblog username. Let's add that as T, and so on and so forth. You can add or not add any of these details as you choose, but what's going to happen is they will display on our website. I've got a profile picture in here. The reason mine shows up is I have previously clicked on this Gravatar icon and linked an email address of mine with a particular photo. And what WordPress does is it uses that email address as a key to pull in my icon. So if on the page when you set your widget up, if it didn't provide you with that photo, what you'll need to do is click on this Gravatar button, go to Gravatar, create an account, give them a username, an email address, and upload a photo, and it will automatically appear here. If you want to add an address, do that. California 90210. United States of America, so I'll put that in just to show you what displays here. You can add a job title. What's our title here? We could say CEO of the Incorporated company. And if I have other websites that were not included in this list up here, which includes some of the common ones, so GitHub, Google+, Twitter, Facebook, etc., etc. If I had other websites, let's say I have a Pinterest account, I could put my Pinterest URL in there, and each one on its own line. Then when I'm done, I can click Update Profile. And what that will do is update this hcard widget that identifies my website essentially as mine. So we'll refresh this to see the additional data it's putting in. So it, in this case, is adding just our address and what was that last piece we added? Our bio. So what we'd also like to do is get the details for our Twitter and Facebook and microblog accounts, all these other accounts on there. So let's go back to the widgets setup. And we can add the rel.me widget, which also is built into the IndieWeb plugin. And this is going to display, rel.me is a microformats spec. So So we're going to save that, and we'll go back and refresh our page to see the additional data it's going to throw out. So it's going to add this little snippet here of our appearances on other websites. So I can open this link, and it should pop in and take me to my Twitter website. And similarly, I've got my Facebook presence, my microblog presence, and my Pinterest account. Now you'll notice that it took my Pinterest account and automatically linked the proper icon. And as you'll recall, we had an option on the IndieWeb option setting page to make these either color or black and white. So if we save this and go back and refresh this page, these should all turn to black and white icons. So you've got a choice of either black and white icons or color icons, and you can choose based on the data you put in on your user page which ones will show. So we now have on our website some identifying pieces. We've got an hcard that'll show up on all of our pages as our photo, an avatar, and since you can control what photo you put into your Gravatar account, you can control thereby what image you use to identify yourself with. In my case, I'm just using my standard photo. It'll put in some basic address information and a short bio if you like. And then we did that with again, that came from the author hcard widget. Then we added the rel me widget, which added these little icons to indicate other accounts we have in other places on the web. And ideally for each of these, you'll go into your account. You can edit your profile. So on my Twitter account, I'll edit my Twitter profile, and I would put in www.press.bafosako.com and then click save. And after we save that, we now, when we look at my Twitter account should link back to my website. So now as this rel me micro format indicates on my website, I'm putting a rel me link on this Twitter icon that points at my Twitter account. And on my Twitter account, I have a link that points back at my website. And the only way I can have rel me links on both of these is because I own both and was able to put my URLs for each account. And if you do a quick inspection, you'll notice that there is right here, a rel equals me micro format on the Twitter page and a corresponding rel me link on my website. And that is a stronger means of identifying that, in fact, the person who owns this website also owns or controls that Twitter account. And similarly, you can go to your Facebook, micro.blog accounts, Pinterest accounts, and all of those will have fields that you can put your domain name that identifies your primary presence on the web on those as well. So this will bring us to the end of this short plugin tutorial. And to do a quick recap, we have added the IndieWeb plugin, and we have gone through the options page to set a few options. Most of them were set by default, which is a nice thing always. And then as part of the IndieWeb plugin, we went to the Appearance tab and dragged and dropped the hcard widget and the rel me author widget. to appear in our sidebars. If you have a different theme and you want to add it to a different area, typically those will show up either as a sidebar or maybe a footer widget. Then you can add those in. And then within your user account page, on users and your profile, we scrolled through and added a few bits of detail about who we are. I think I'm going to fix that piece on mine for my nickname so that it's appropriately, it'll show up with the appropriate space and capitalization when I go to my page and refresh it. Hopefully it should. I want to do that. But you should be able to control how this piece appears. But we did that in our user profile page. And you can pick and choose which things you either want to show or don't want to show. If you don't have a GitHub account, you certainly don't need to create one and create a link to it. Or if you do have one and you don't want to directly show it on the page of your website, you can certainly do so by not including that data here. But the nice part is you have the ability to pick and choose what data and what other websites you want to show on your website, linking out to others that are out there. So that is the quick snippet setup of how to install, activate the IndieWeb plugin, and play around with a few of the bits of functionality that are built into it. Next time we'll come back and look at how to use it to install a handful of additional plugins that will allow us to further expand our identity and use of our new IndieWeb presence using WordPress. Until then, this is Chris Aldrich of Bafo Sacco saying have a good afternoon.